Hi everyone, welcome back to the garage and the Morris Minor. It's sometime between Christmas and New Year. By the time you see this, it'll be the New Year, I guess, so Happy New Year to everyone. I've got Paul with me from America, son-in-law, and we're going to try and take out the engine and gearbox. That's the plan, at least. I've stripped everything out. There's been a bit of a delay between videos because I've not been well. I've had to go into hospital for an operation, and I've got another one coming up, so there'll be another delay, but we're hoping that we can get the engine and the gearbox out, at least continue with the journey of restoration. So I've kind of stripped out all of the easy stuff, the electrical loom. Honestly, I can't remember where we got to, but we're almost at the point where the engine and gearbox is kind of the last thing, apart from the brakes and a few other bits and pieces. So we need to look at the clutch system and take that apart, disassemble that from the gearbox. Looking on YouTube, what a wonderful place it is, it looks as if dropping the drive shaft, prop shaft thingamy-bob from the rear axle allows it to drop down and just be pulled out from the back of the gearbox housing. And then there's just a few bolts that we need to undo to remove the engine and gearbox complete in one move, using this fantastic second-hand engine hoist that I managed to pick up off eBay. So I'll tell you more about that another time, but we need to crack on with this because time's limited, and Paul has to go back to the States tomorrow, so we really need to get on with it. So we've got it jacked up, and I guess the first thing we need to do is the clutch. Oh, bonnet. Oh, yeah. We need to take the bonnet off. There are a couple of bolts either side and a spring here with another little section in here with a nut and a bolt on it, which Paul has dealt with. So this is all loosened off. Fortunately, all the nuts and bolts have just loosened really easily. It seems to have been fairly well maintained in the past, so that's really helpful. So we're going to just try and lift this off. Should we just go onto the roof with it? So what do we need to do?
You can support the bonnet. I'll take this bolt out.
Yep. Okay.
And then we can take these off from either side, lift up, go all the way back.
Cool.
You got that?
Yep.
What's that? So we don't lose it.
Excellent.
Alright, start on this side. Bottom.
Okay.
Put those here for
Yep.
now. My side is clear. Yours? Yeah.
Okay.
Bring this right back. Watch this.
Happy there?
Good here?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, I think
that works.
fine. We just leave it there.
Perfect.
So we're really stuck for space here, as I've said before. So I'm going to replace the top, the soft top on it, so not too worried about any damage there. That makes it so much easier to get to. So these nuts and bolts need to be.
What we can do is
put them back on here.
No, put them right back on. So we don't
Yeah.
lose
So
them. These seem to be locked in place, so you don't have to get to the other side of the bolt. Luckily.
yeah. So in between times, I've removed everything in the dash, taken out all the electrics from dash as well. So all of this has been stored in bags, ready to be worked on, cleaned up, and kept nice and safe until we can put it all back together again. So, okay, so that's the bonnet off. Next job is the clutch.
We still have to remove the.
Oh, we need
cable.
the speedo cable needs to come off, and that's this cable here, and I think it's just into the gearbox housing and a fairly straightforward
Pair of vice grips should do the job.
removal. Okay, so we're working inside the car now. And, that's the speedo cable, and we're just loosening that off. And remove that. Tried to remove the speedo cable. Doesn't want to just pull out. I don't know whether it does just pull, but we're not going to force it, so we'll have a look at it when we get the engine and gearbox out. And because it's detached from the dash, maybe that's what the Haynes manual is suggesting, that we unscrew it from the rear of the speedo rather than from the gearbox. Anyway, it's still attached to the gearbox, but it will come out okay when we lift the engine out, so it is what it is. We're now going to jack up the rear of the car so that we can unbolt the drive shaft from the rear axle, and I believe that's a Whitworth size bolt nut. So fortunately I've got those, so we should be okay with the fittings and the tools to be able to do that. And then it allegedly just pulls out from the gearbox, the rear of the gearbox from the back, and that will then give us room to be able to get at the rest of the mountings in there. And the gearbox and engine should, once we undo the necessary bolts, should lift out. We've also got to dismantle part of the clutch area. Don't know what it's called, but we're going to do that. And then really it's just unscrewing bolts, unbolting bolts. Anyway, taking these bolts out and lifting the engine and gearbox out using this this lift that we've got. So we'll get under the car and see what size these Whitworth bolts are. So at the moment we're trying to remove the nuts and bolts from the prop shaft connected to the rear axle. They use a Whitworth spanner, which fortunately we've got, and Paul's just working his way through these, but they're either locking nuts or they've got something on them that's making it really quite tough to get them off, but I guess they have to be fixed securely because we don't want that coming loose when we're driving. So we're going to carry on with removing all of these nuts and bolts, and we'll catch up with you once we've got to the last one and dropping the drive shaft, prop shaft down from the rear axle. So I'm looking at it from the back of the car now, so This is the rear axle, and Paul's got the pry bar. Well, it's called a heel bar actually. We've just been down to the local machine mart and bought those, and then the spanner goes onto the nut just on the back side of the prop shaft, drive shaft thing, and Paul's using the pry bar to lever against the spanner, and that's worked really well, but they're on really tight, so thank goodness we've got some extra muscle, but that's working nicely. So as he turns the spanner up and pulls down on the pry bar, or holds the pry bar, that's allowing us to get that off. So that's great. Looks like we've got some success at last.
And if not, I'll pop the bolts out.
So you think that with the bolts in it, it'll move forward sufficiently? So we've got all the nuts off, and you're just going to push it forward into the gearbox almost, and then it'll pull out. Okay, let's give it a try. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Cool. Okay.
And
Well,
one left. There we are.
wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I'll try pulling towards you. Yep, it's coming out.
Fantastic.
And there we are. Drive shaft
Nice.
removed.
And so this is where that drive shaft was, and is no longer. So it's going quite well. Paul's now working on the clutch system, so we've got to basically follow the Haynes manual. So it's removing the return spring, which is the spring that pulls the clutch pedal back. I'll show you that in a second. And then there's some split pin clip things, can't remember what they're called. Anyway, little spring clips that need to come out, and hopefully that's gonna then release the clutch mechanism so that we can get ourselves organized from within the car, so that we can then take a few other bolts out to release the gearbox, and then we can start lifting it from the... So I don't know if this actually shows what Paul's doing or not, but we'll...
So just putting it back together a little bit so I can show you what I've taken out. I've taken out a pin from here.
Okay.
And then we've also removed the bolts that attach this plate to the gearbox itself.
Okay.
So let's come out.
Can you see the return spring? Oh, it's that one back there, isn't it? Right.
And that just...
that we've unhooked already.
And that just hooked onto the hole right there.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Okay, so what are we looking at down here?
So we've got the plate that attaches to the frame itself on the other side of the pin going into the gearbox.
Okay.
And so I'm just loosening those two bolts after taking out those pins we saw here and removing those brackets. So I'll just loosen
And
these
that's
up
the
completely.
clutch pedal just there. So this is all part of the clutch assembly that needs to come out. We've disconnected everything, and we now have the task of removing this rod that goes through into, I guess this is the clutch housing, gearbox assembly. So Paul's found a way of removing it, which
Push
is
against that spring, and then that pulls this flange away from the frame, and I can just push it down.
Okay.
And pull away from the gearbox.
Okay.
There seems to be a ball joint there. We can just pull out and they're in peace.
Nice. So the next thing that we need to do is to remove a bonding strap. So this is what's the purpose of a bonding strap?
Typically it's electrical bonding, so
Okay.
electrical grounding.
So yeah, okay. So that needs to come off because that's connected to the car. So if we try to remove the engine and gearbox while that's still attached, it's just going to be problematic because we just drag the car with us. So that will come out. I'm still somewhat perplexed about the speedo cable because we've undone the knurled, I guess, fixing point and unscrewed that, and that just doesn't want to pull out, so it's in there fairly secure. So we're going to take it out with the cable attached.
Put that bolt back in so we don't lose it.
Excellent.
Bonding strap removed. There we are.
So that's the bonding cable removed, and then
Tuck that in here.
we have these, I guess they're rubber blocks that help with any movement, just support the gearbox. So there's nut and bolt that needs to be loosened. I think, are we going to take those out completely?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're going to take these nuts and bolts out, and there's one on the other side as well. So we'll do that now, and that should be the gearbox ready to come out from the back. So actually, with everything now, all the hard stuff undone, it's just these last few remaining nuts and bolts that we need to loosen off, and then we should be able to connect up some straps to the hoist, the lift, and then work out how we're going to lift out the engine. But so far, everything seems to be going okay. It is, as ever, it's just the time that it takes to work out how to undo things successfully. One thing I did just read in the Haynes manual, should have read the manual before we started work, is that they recommend you mark the prop shaft at the back where it meets the rear axle, so that when you put it back on, you've got those marks in the right place. So unfortunately we didn't do that, so it'll need a little bit of fiddling when we put it back in, when I put it back in, hopefully successfully, just to make sure that it goes in the right way. So that's one issue that we'll have to cover off when we get there. But back to undoing these nuts and bolts, and we can get those supports loosened off, ready to lift the engine out. So the next stage really is that we've decided that we need to take the gear lever out because it's got to go through that little hole at the front, and we would have to tilt the engine and gearbox at a fairly severe angle, and it's just easier to remove it. I have seen videos where it comes out complete with that gear lever attached, but we're going to take it out because it needs to come off to be cleaned and restored anyway. So Paul's just removing that. So there's 3 nuts and washers that need to be removed, and that will, I guess, remove a cover plate. So I need to get another bag marked up so that we've got these ready to go somewhere safe, so I don't lose them, because it's going to be a while before it gets reattached.
Yep, and then one more.
So it looks like there's a bolt at the side, the other side, where Paul's just loosened off. Again, another one of those moments where probably I should have had a look in the Haynes manual, but there we go, that side. Let's pull a torch in. Let's show you what we've got here. So that's where it came from, and where it needs to go back at some point. So we were a little bit confused about what the engine steady cable and bracket was. But you can probably see some. There we go. Thanks, Paul. Paul's wiggling the bracket that holds it to the back of the kind of engine gearbox area, and then it fixes over on this right hand side where Paul's holding as well. So we've just unbolted that rather, so that's good to come off, and something else that's not going to stop the engine and gearbox from coming out. Kind of makes sense once you look at it and you see where everything is, but if you've not done it before, then actually it can be quite confusing. So that's been unbolted, so that can come out. It'll all have to come out eventually because we want to get it cleaned up and resprayed. So yeah, all good. We move on to the next bit.
One quick note, this bolt was a bit shorter than the other two bolts, were a bit longer. So the passenger side bolt, its highest, will be a little bit shorter.
So the passenger side bolt was a little shorter than the other two bolts. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so we're almost there. Wherever possible, Paul, has been refitting the bolts so that they're going back in, so that they stay in place so we don't lose them. I've got one or two bits and pieces that I've put into bags and marked those up, the clutch assembly and that kind of thing. I was going to put a label on the gear lever, but it's a gear lever and you can't really mistake it for anything else. So in the end I haven't. But things are moving along nicely. So on to, I think, the front end, the engine. We've got some mounting bolts to unscrew there. And then I think we can hook up the hoist and maybe start to lift. So that's one of the mounting brackets on the left hand side as I look at the front of the car, and this is the second one, and I think that's it then. From that point on we can get the hoist in and maybe start to lift.
And I think to get that out as well.
Oh, good point. Yeah, so can you just point that out again? So we've got an engine steady rod at the back that needs to come out, so we need to just unbolt that, and we should be okay, good to go then.
Alright.
So 9/16. Doesn't want to move.
I'm going to give it a little try the other way just in case it is a reverse threaded bolt. No. Nope. I'm just going to remove it from here because that's already loose. Because of the back side, look back here. We should get some penetrant on there first and then move forward.
Okay.
Wait a minute. So 9/16, we got a socket on there.
Stuck tight.
There we are.
There we go.
Last thing we want to do is strip anything attached to the block. The head sides for that matter. Let's see if we can move this out of the way. Might not be able to move it out of the way, but I don't think it'll get in our way. Because once we move the engine forward, I can just slide that to the side rather than trying to get back here and messing with that hidden bolt.
Oh, I see.
The other option is taking this off, but if we can leave the linkages at the same distances,
Okay.
save some tuning time later.
Okay. So, shall I?
Will be necessary. We'll have to join effort working forward. Okay, looks like you've got that fairly loose. Since this one wants to work with us.
Do you want a pry bar for that? Just very aware that we're on axle stands and if push too hard. Push too hard, we'll end up falling off the axle stands. I've got the pry bars somewhere. They might be out. Let me go and have a look, see if they're in the back. This help to just something a little bit smaller to get in there.
Lift it up a little more. Should be plenty of clearance and gaps.
Sorry.
This one's very close. We drop it down a little bit. Now that that's loose, I'll pop it right off.
Drop it down.
Yeah, just a little bit, because it's trying to pull it that way.
So it's yeah, I think we're lifting it completely on this side.
There we are. That one's out. So now we can pull towards me.
So this one, can you take it up again?
That's tight. That seems to have filled up.
Okay, yeah. A bit more.
Very nice. It's all the way out.
Okay.
Perfect.
So that's
Let's
that.
see if I can do the same on here. On this side.
It kind of just wiggled out to the front.
There we are.
Oh, nice.
Wash those later.
Look Okay.
Yeah.
So
And I'll lift up from the back here so I can get up these mounts. And then you can lift up and pull forward.
you want me to lift a bit more?
Not just yet, because that'll put more weight on my side.
Okay.
So I'm going to lift it up off of the mount or the brace here.
Okay.
And then once it's free from that, I can kind of guide it through for you. It's going to want to tip back.
Do you want me to do anything here?
Not just yet.
Okay. You
Let me see
tell
how-
me what you want.
Let me
Yeah.
get a hand on this.
Do you want me to come forward a touch?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we need to raise it slightly because
That's fine.
it's now resting on the brackets again. So
Yep, raise it as needed. I've got it.
okay, so I can come back a touch or forward.
I've got a pry bar underneath it right now, so it doesn't fall back in. But yeah, you're free.
Okay. And then,
We're clear to move as needed now. Okay.
so then the sump is tight against the front here, so we're going to have to lift it.
Yeah,
so
you can lift it as high as the firewall leg.
Okay. Do you want
It's not firewall.
to? Shall I do that?
Yep. Got another inch or so on my side for you to, and I can push down in the back now. So how does that work?
Okay, so we're kind of free at the front edge.
It's quite easy for me to maneuver.
Okay, so I think we can now pull it out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll stay back here and move the transmission through. I can push down pretty well.
Just
easily.
making sure that we are completely
Oh yeah.
free and we need to go up a touch
Okay.
just to get it over the front.
You can also push down on this to get a better angle.
Okay.
That will come around.
Yeah.
Alright. And then you can raise that if you need to. But I don't
think we're.
Make sure. Yep, you were good. We're clear. I'm just gonna lift.
So I think we need to go up a bit and then push down on the where the gear lever goes.
Okay. Yeah.
And then
That
I
works.
think it will come through.
There we are. You're good to
Nice.
pull it straight out.
Okay. I think that's.
We can do as well once we get a little further back is turn it. Give us a little more room.
Yeah, I think we're, in terms of room, we're probably kind of stuck. Does that give us? Is that just happy there?
Yeah. It's happy
Okay,
there.
so if we go with that,
Mhm.
then we can get the car off the stands and take it out, and that'll give us more room in here then. Well, I kind of got carried away with moving the car out of the garage and forgot to shoot any more video. So apologies for that. I'm so very grateful to Paul for spending time helping me with what really was a mammoth task, and I was really a little unsure of tackling it on my own. Paul also removed the clutch plate, and with the car outside, I've now got plenty of room in the garage to tackle the engine and ancillary parts of the car. Thanks for watching, and I'm hoping I'll get more videos out as I continue on my restoration journey.